I've just had a brilliant conversation with Charlie Robinson, who is the founder of Gelcard. He left university when he was 19. He's currently 22 years old and running 2 businesses. It was a pleasure to speak with him, all his honest insights about how he's done business and any advice he has for young entrepreneurs. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello guys, and welcome to the Nova and Boba podcast, where we will be taking a deep dive into the reality of the lives as a young, early stage entrepreneur. We'll be exploring the highs and lows and everything in between while starting a business as a Gen Z founder, while of course drinking some boba, to help you better understand if entrepreneurship is right for you. So today we are so excited to welcome Charles Robinson as our first ever guest on the Nova and Boba podcast. Charles dropped out of uni when he was 19 to found his first company during the pandemic, Gelcard. It's a premium hand sanitizer brand that sold millions across the globe from Tokyo to Toronto and has even been used by supermodel Bella Hadid and Google. Gelcard is growing extensively and is completely self-funded and profitable. Not only this, recently Charles has spent the last 2 years investing in water technology at UCL to start another startup that launches today. How exciting! Charles and his company Gelcard have been profiled by The Business Insider, Evening Standard and BBC News. He's also been interviewed by Sky, Bloomberg Radio and BBC One, and now he's here on the Nova and Boba podcast. We're so grateful to welcome you, Charles.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, how are you?
I'm really, really well, thanks. So first of all, we need to start with you having your boba.
This is so kind, and this is mango.
This is mango. And the reason we are having boba, because we feel like someone's boba order tells a lot about them. However, Charles had never had boba, so we ordered a mango fruit one for him. And I am having a matcha brown sugar. Matcha, so let me know how you find it.
Yeah, I'll let you know. This is good. This is my first time. My little sister will be proud of me.
Yeah, good. Are you sure you enjoy it? Have you had the tapioca balls?
No, what's that? The things
These
at
are
the
the
bottom.
boba balls, yeah. That's why it's called boba.
It's good.
Yeah.
I can't complain. Thank you for getting that for me.
No worries at all. Charles, now we're here. Tell us a bit about how Gelcard began.
Gelcard began in April 2020. I was a first year student at UCL.
Lovely.
Didn't really enjoy it. And was looking for things to do otherwise. I worked in politics very briefly, and then COVID happened, and I was really just looking for something to really throw myself into.
Nice.
And came up with this idea for a hand sanitizer company. No business plan, no real ambition, other than just to really solve a personal problem of that I was bored and ambitious and just wanted to really work on something big. And in 2.5 years later, we're now in Kuwait, Toronto, Japan, used by some big brands, and that's how we got there.
Brilliant. So did you drop out of uni then start Gelcard, or started Gelcard then dropped out of uni?
Yeah, I don't think I've actually dropped out of uni. You'll have to speak to UCL, but the way it happened is I stopped going to lectures in the first year, and then I deferred my second and third year. So you can just take time out to go and do something. I just said I want to work on this business, and they were like, cool. And they haven't contacted me since, so I've never had any official documentation to say I'm going to drop out. And so I'm kind of in limbo right now, but...
Brilliant. So do you have plans to go back?
I have no plans to.
So you've dropped out then?
Maybe.
And that's brilliant. So launching a startup at 19 takes a lot of guts because, teenagers don't commonly pursue entrepreneurship. So what made you think that, you know what, I'm the person to drop out of uni, have this, Mark Zuckerberg story, and I'm just going to go for it? What gave you that confidence?
What gave me the confidence? Because I think there was very limited opportunity cost. So, that's a very basic term from economics, in that when you make a decision, what are you giving up? And it's normally the best maxim through which to make decisions. And the first year of university was virtually cancelled due to COVID. So I was 19 with 6 months to do nothing, locked down at home, and there was no real other way to spend that time. I could have maybe started applying to law firms, but even then that would have been a couple of years away. And I just thought like, well, there is an opportunity. There is very little downside. Why would I not do it? That was more the question rather than why would I do it? And threw myself into it. But as I said, there was no ambition of, oh, I want to hit this target by this year, blah, blah, blah. It was just, I wanted something to do, and what's the worst that could happen?
So there was no opportunity cost for you for not getting a degree? Because I assume you went to uni to get a degree.
Good question. The clarification is, I had those 6 months before my year 2 would start at UCL.
Okay.
So I thought, well, I might as well try this for 6 months. If it didn't work, well, I just had something to do. I tried hard, and I just go back to uni, go and become a lawyer or something. And if it went well, there was infinite upside, basically. So
essentially, this is how Gelcard started.
Right.
So is there anything about your childhood that shaped your ambition and drive today?
Yeah, good question. I never wanted to become an entrepreneur, even though I sort of come from a family of such. My dad is one. My mother is like a creative. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I was never the kid in the playground selling sweets, which is like the typical young founder story. But I, from a young age, had like a capacity for hard work.
Nice, yeah.
I'm very privileged to come from a really supportive background, family, 2 parents. I went to a really good school, so I was naturally kind of a confident and ambitious individual. And I really think my academic background in philosophy, which is what I studied at A-level, really helped. Just like the idea of working from first principles, assessing problems for what they are, not what they seem to be. I think that really helped shape me into someone who could be an entrepreneur. But I never had that ambition at 12 or 13 thinking,
to be an entrepreneur.
Never wanted to do it.
That's brilliant. And do you think there's any advantages or disadvantages of being a young founder?
Yeah, let me be clear. Like, PR is really easy relatively when you are a young founder. I mean, a lot of the revenues that our brands have generated has come from PR, and if you look at the PR, it's not amazing idea, it's 19-year-old with amazing idea.
Yeah.
So you've got a real competitive advantage with PR, and PR is effectively the best marketing strategy available in terms of the return on investment. You can spend maybe nothing or maybe £1,000 and get like a 100x return. Normal like paid advertising, you can get like 5 or X return, whatever. Beyond the pragmatic thing of PR, I really felt my greatest strength when I was 19 is I had no idea of my limitations, and I had no preconceptions of, oh, when you start a business you need to do this, and this is how you should send emails, this is how you should market your product. So just being really wide-eyed and having all that ambition and confidence that I really don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm just going to find a way.
Do you think having naivety at 19 is really helpful because you don't know all the problems?
You literally, that's the best way to say it. I saw a good thing on this the other day that startups have been kind of expressed in going from 0 to 1 through Peter Thiel originally, and I saw like a rendition of it is that when second-time founders, which I guess I am now, find it harder to go from 0 to 1 because they find it hard to go back to 0. And when I was at 0 at 19, I had, as you said, naivety, no sense of, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah, or 90% of startups fail.
Right, and I think if I knew all these things, I probably wouldn't have done it because there are so many reasons not to do it and reasons why you're going to fail. But I had no idea of this might actually go wrong. It's just I'm just going to make it work. So yeah, I would really embrace that naivety.
Brilliant. And for other teenage founders, would you tell them to start a business? Would you give them advice? Maybe they're thinking, I don't really want to go to uni anymore. I don't want to go to, would you be like, go for it?
The average 19-year-old?
Yeah.
Generally, almost always no.
Interesting.
And I don't want to be negative on your teenage entrepreneurship podcast.
That's fine.
But I think the harsh reality is, obviously you can have a bias when you speak to people on LinkedIn, like a lot of people are going to be more like founder centric or founder based. But when you just go like the average people, and I don't mean average in that they are like not good or not exceptional, just like typical people, like I'm just thinking about people I know, like I would not recommend it. It's very stressful. There's no guarantees. And yeah, I would generally not recommend it. And there is also like a meta point therein, which is if you need it recommending, it probably isn't for you.
Fair enough. That actually makes sense. But
yeah, but you can push back on that.
Yeah, I want to push back on that because you mentioned it's very stressful. But isn't uni stressful? Isn't taking out a loan, doing your coursework, isn't that stressful, doing this thing? You don't even know if you're going to come out with a job or a job you like anyway. Isn't that stressful rather than pursuing your own thing, I guess like you did, and then finding the joy in that?
It's a great question. So stress is relative, and it's an inherently subjective rather than objective thing. So the reason, if university was framed as you're taking out a £60,000 loan, you have to pay it back under these terms, I think most like 18, 19-year-olds would be really stressed. But that isn't how it's framed. It's you go into this different town with your friends to get drunk and work relatively hard on the subject. So yeah, I wouldn't. It's totally relative, but the stress of having to hand in a submission at a certain date compared to not knowing how you're going to make money next week and employing people and that sort of burden, I think there's a difference.
And I was wondering, how did you come out to your parents about dropping out or deferring?
Come out, yeah. They were, again, like I'm totally privileged, and like this is a disclaimer in that I never want to come across as one of these. We FaceTimed yesterday, and I explained this to you, as one of these young founders who's had like a tiny bit of success, and then say, "Oh, this is what you need to do. You should drop out of uni. You should go and start a business." Like I really don't think you should do that. But my parents were like amazingly supportive. Neither of them went to university. I was the first one from my family to go to university.
Wow, okay.
And subsequently drop out or defer, as we spoke about. But I'm fortunate. I'm also fortunate that I didn't have to provide for my parents. I have a number of friends who need to take certain routes because they need a guaranteed income by a certain time because they're giving back to their brothers, sisters, family. I only had myself to worry about, so I'm incredibly privileged for that. And I could take such risks, basically.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I was reading a book called Unfair Advantage.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
I haven't. No. Who's it by?
It's by, there's two authors, Hassan and Ali.
Okay. Yeah.
And they just chat about what they think in their lives. Everyone has these unique set of unfair advantages. Yeah. And it's good that you've like expressed yours, so then people can like have a more realistic view of, sometimes.
Yeah, and I can expand upon that. Like I grew up in West Sussex in a place with like quite a lot of affluence and no crime. I went to like a small village school. I've got like 3 siblings. I've got 2 supportive parents, and I went to like a academically selective good secondary school. I am like genetically I have no illnesses, and I live in the most prosperous time in human history. So
into that, yeah.
In terms of like the genetic lottery, I am like virtually the most privileged person to ever exist. So I've got to acknowledge that.
And good for you for doing that, because not a lot of people do like to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I just I mean, like people say you're a product of your environment, but people sometimes use that in bad situations, right? Where you've gone down like a road of crime or whatever, that gets tossed around there. Like, why can't it be tossed around in good situations as well? Like, of course I'm a product of my environment.
So do you think the way your life set up, 2 parents, affluent household, there was no way you were going to fail?
No, not at all. And like, you can, if you want to like open up into the logic of like the causality, in that you have necessary conditions and sufficient conditions. So
I see the philosophy student coming out.
Yeah. I apologize.
No worries, it looks great, yeah.
So a necessary condition is something that is needed for something to happen. But a sufficient condition is when if X happens, Y must happen. And there's a difference between necessity and like entailment. So the fact that I come from like a good household and I've got supportive parents and I grew up in like the UK, that was like necessary for me to be where I am, but it wasn't sufficient. So it didn't mean that I just had to wake up every morning and things were handed. Like in our society there is like there are privileges, but there is also meritocracy. So I had to get those A stars. I had to get to UCL. I had to start the revenue. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Nice. And this part of the podcast is going to explore your actual day-to-day running of Gelcard.
Okay, cool.
So what have been some of your biggest learning experiences while running a business?
The biggest learning experience. It's such a broad question because.
Broad question. Okay.
No. I'm happy to answer it, but it's almost like what aren't the learning experiences?
Okay. What's your biggest one?
The biggest one. I remember in the first year or so, really thinking that school is very, very easy compared to business. And this might be a relevant dichotomy to explain because a lot of your listeners are going to be at that sort of age. In school, if you turn up, if you do the work, if you make notes, if you do revision, if you do these things, like you are set up to succeed. And there are people who are paid to ensure you succeed.
Yeah. Every day.
Every day. And this is why one of my teachers when I was 15 said, the default should be that you get 100% in every exam. Like falling back, any regression from that 100% is just down to your lack of effort.
Is that what they said?
Yeah, but I was really inspired by that. I was thinking like, that's kind of true that there are people who are professionals that are paid to teach you, to make you succeed. So really when you view school through that lens, it's really quite easy. Business is inherently structured as such that you are set up to fail. In that like the free market doesn't really want more companies. Other businesses are designed to take your market share and they don't want you taking their market share. Which is why I feel every day of building a business is like you're fighting uphill, not compared to school, which is fighting downhill. And now I would just think if I went back to school, it would just be the easiest thing in the world.
Do you think?
And I don't want to say that like, I'm not incredibly intelligent or whatever. It's just like the system is set up for you to succeed. This system is set up for you to fail.
Yeah, interesting. Just want to dive into this a bit further.
Sure.
You know, if everyone's meant to get 100%, it couldn't happen because then you would have no...
Yeah, okay, fair point. So I guess what you're indicating is that it is natural and expected that there are degrees of performance and effort. I guess that teacher would say, yeah, and that's just because not every student's going to be 100% committed.
And one's putting more effort ahead of the other.
Yeah. And I just shared that quote because it really helped change my mindset about how to succeed. And it's just a general thing that if you're super ambitious, if you aim for this virtually unattainable target, 100%, but this applies in business as well, you probably aren't going to get it, but you're going to be way higher than if you were just like, oh, I'm just going to settle for like a B.
I really like that, to be fair. Like, if you think your default's 100%, like how far, like your potential is going to be massive, right? Like, to frame your thinking like that is really cool.
And there was a saying in business, like, if you couldn't fail, like, how ambitious would you be?
You'd be crazy ambitious, right?
Right. You would. So exactly. So if you think if I'm expected to get 100%, like, how hard would you work? How much confidence would you have? So that's just a mindset thing, I think.
Brilliant. And would you say he's like really helped shape you, the way you view life, that teacher?
I can't even remember that teacher. Remember the quote?
You remember
I hope I haven't made that quote up. But it came into my head from somewhere with that impression. However, I have had teachers that have had like an incredible impression on me. The two stand out in particular. One was my philosophy teacher, who is a remarkable man and really, I didn't actually do too well in my GCSEs, but I went well in my A-levels, and he was a big part of my confidence. And then my history teacher as well, I always remember that he used to share his notes to us. And I remember on every title he would underline a word 3 times. I thought any man that is dedicated and obsessed enough to underline something 3 times is something you can learn from there.
Yeah, really diligent guy. Yeah. And tell me, how does the day-to-day look like when you're running your business? Like, take me from morning to
morning. Sure.
Actually, start from when you wake up.
Yeah, sure. So over the last 2-3 years, I have like really experimented over different things. And like I obviously started Gelcard in like working from my bedroom in lockdown. We've had different offices since. We're now in Soho House. I have experimented waking up at anything as early as 4 a.m. to maybe like 9, but I'm generally better at working at night. I'm just more of like a night person. Working out in the morning, different things. So I've tested loads of things. What works for me at the moment is wake up around 7 in the morning. At the moment, as I was explaining to you, I live very close to the office, so I'm in here for 7:30, 8.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Many people in there at that time?
No one.
Yeah.
That's because they're all creatives here, and creatives don't wake up early.
They don't, yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to offend some people there. And their work, I don't really schedule my day in terms of I'm doing this at that time. I just write a list of what has to get done, and then I just do it in terms of its urgency and importance.
Nice. So do you do the Eisenhower matrix?
I think I know what you're talking about. No. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, I literally just open a Google Doc every Monday morning saying to do week commencing Monday, blah, 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 blah. I write out like maybe 2-3 pages of just different things I have to chase, reply, post, whatever. And then I just like put them in bold once they're done.
Brilliant.
Which isn't, I'm sure like there are gurus out there saying that's not how you should do it.
But this is your productivity.
That's just what works for me. And then I kind of just work until maybe 6 p.m. roughly. And then I will normally go to the gym. I try and exercise as much as I can. That's like my one thing I do other than work.
Every single day?
Yeah, virtually every single day.
Wow.
And then in the evening, I will work maybe from 8 till midnight, but more casual work and more creative work. Wow. So I've done all the boring emails and stuff, and I might work on some designing in the evening. Yeah.
Lovely, because I read in the iPaper that you work 100 plus weeks. 100 hours plus weeks. So, which means you're working like 14 to 15 hours every single day.
Yeah.
And I wondered, how do you do it?
Yeah, so...
How and why?
So, yeah, there's like... how people define work is different, right? So if you work for someone, you generally define your hours as when you get to the office, 9 till 5, for example, or whatever it might be. But you're really not working a lot of that time. You might be catching up with a colleague, you might be your lunch break, you might actually just be sitting at your computer for an hour.
Scrolling through TikTok, yeah.
Right, yeah. 100 hours roughly is like loose, but there is never a time I'm not working.
That's crazy.
In that, from when I wake up, the first thing I check is my phone, and I fall asleep with my phone in my hand every night.
No way.
And any time between that, I'm on a podcast now, but if I'm in lunch, I'm replying to emails. If I'm in the gym, I'm checking it. So yeah, I'm kind of always working, but those 100 hours, I'm not just stuck to my desk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, do you believe in work-life balance?
What do you mean by that question?
As in, there's this whole, rhetoric saying, you must be balanced, find time for friends, like do things you enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
and you work all the time. How does that, do you mind? Do you think if you've got to do what you've got to do, you can work 100 hours, it's fine?
So I believe that concept, I believe that a work-life balance exists, but I don't believe in it for myself.
Fair enough.
And I think I'm more of an outline case than any case that should be like admired or looked up to or one should aspire to have. The real kind of reason I dropped out of university is because I wanted to work hard, and there wasn't much work to do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do all the extra reading, go and actually email the actual philosophers and do all the stuff. And I remember my first ever week of Gelcard, I just worked all the time, and I had 25 meetings or whatever. And I remember at the end of that Friday just thinking, this is the best thing ever, because
Really?
no one can tell me I should stop working.
Yeah. So in your third month of Gelcard, you made £70,000 in 1 month.
Yeah.
Were you shocked? Had you ever seen £70,000? Like, what did you do? How did you spend it?
I know where you read this. It was actually the 15th month.
15th? Oh.
Yeah, but you were just a year out. It was 2021 June.
Right, okay.
Rather than, but
Cool.
good research. It felt good, but I was actually talking about this to someone yesterday. I felt a lot of pressure at the time because that summer was a really important summer for Gelcard because it was kind of the last COVID summer in the UK, and as we were discussing, it doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
And we hit this month $70K, $100,000 roughly, and rather than celebrating, I was like, okay, we have to hit this next month, and we didn't. Part due to just that's business, but also I think there were different COVID measures that had come in that closed some restaurants, and our demand was a derivative demand of that. And so there was absolutely no celebration at the time. There was more just this is the standard that we have to hit.
Wow.
It just brought on I guess more pressure.
Wow, more pressure. So you didn't take time to be going for a drink? Oh, not a drink. But
No, because every time you make $70K, you think I could have made 200, because for every deal that we closed, we lost 4 deals.
Wow.
And I presume that's reflective of a lot of businesses. But I don't think there's ever a month or a time period where everything went perfect.
But 20% close rate's not bad in sales.
Yeah, and it isn't, but it's contextual. But I just remember at the time that there were deals that we should have closed and we didn't. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I read a bit about your unique sales strategy by handwriting letters to CEOs. Was LinkedIn not working? Email not working? What made you want to handwrite these personal notes to sell them Gelcard?
Yeah, so I read something the other day that 99% of what you do is inefficient, but you have to go through that to get to the 1% of efficiency. And of course I tried LinkedIn. I hustled that. I hustled cold emailing, cold calling, even though I didn't like that.
Cold calling's stressful.
Yeah, not for me. But I did all these things, literally handing out gel cards on the street and these different things. But the cold letter thing worked well because not many people send letters.
Yeah.
No 19-year-olds send letters. And because of my background in philosophy, I have a certain writing style that can be maybe unusual and catch people's attention. And that worked well. But for every letter that worked, there were maybe 50 letters that I didn't even get a reply.
Yeah.
And you think that for every letter with maybe 5 hours of preparation, because in like the one letter that literally changed everything, I went back to his school photo from like the 1960s, and I remarked in the letter that he was the tallest in his year.
Oh, okay, really.
And then I had a coffee with him a few years later, and he was like, "Yeah, I just saw that you put that much work into the letter, that like I just wanted to give you a chance."
Yeah.
So when it works, it's great, but a lot of the time that doesn't work.
Yeah, there's a lot of no's I guess you have to take in business, isn't there?
For sure.
For sure. And what would your advice be for any early stage entrepreneurs who are struggling to acquire customers?
That's a great question, because that's the only thing that really matters.
Exactly.
It's work even harder and never write something off until you've been told like firmly no.
No, fair enough.
Because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not going to get on this call because I just don't know how that's going to turn into a yes," or "I'm not going to write that letter just because I don't really think it will work," or "I'm not going to even like go on this podcast because it's not guaranteed that anything will come from it."
Yeah.
You've got no idea who's watching and who's doing what. And if I look, like I was in Japan in September. The reason I was in Japan in September is that we have a Gelcard distributor customer out there. They found me because we had a Business Insider article like 2 years ago that went viral. And the only reason I got that Business Insider article was because like a whole other chain of dominoes. So you never know in what way you're going to be successful. So just keep on trying. Yeah,
because the sales cycle can be really long. And then what you do 2 years ago can...
For sure. Just keep on trying. I had a friend that had a great phrase, and it's called championship habits, which means even if it's pre-season, off-season, this is like a sporting metaphor, you still wake up, you still eat the right food, you still go to the gym at the right time, you still put in like the work all the time, regardless of if you're succeeding or not. If you keep doing that long enough and you actually believe in your product,
that's true,
it'll work.
Yeah, because you've been posting on Instagram so long ago, and I remember 2 years ago I was like, oh, you'd be great on this podcast, and that was from like 2 years ago.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But that goes to show, like, just keep turning up every day. Yeah.
But what does it, mean to you? For example, Steve Jobs wanted everyone to have like beautiful personal computers, and that, I guess, was his driving ambition.
Yeah.
What is yours to be like? I'm gonna get up, rather than it just being maybe in your nature.
Yeah.
Like, is there something intrinsic? Anything?
That's a good question. There are certainly things in the world which I see and I think these could be better. And I certainly get validation from doing those things. Like Water2, for example, seeing like...
And what is Water2, if you could explain?
Yeah, so Water2 is something that we launched this morning, which is amazing to be here right now. It's a water technology company here in London. We sell a water filter called a pod, which goes under your sink, where you can drink our water through there. It's about 1,000 times more powerful than a standard filter jug. And we also sell our water canned as well to offer to people. And like the idea behind that was bottled water is so cool. Like brands like Fiji, Voss, they're the best consumer brands of all time.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, like, and it's actually an amazing consumer product if you think about how simple it is and how ubiquitous it is. But it's just not sustainable, and it's clear it has limitations in how this can exist, and its price and its wider externalities. And it was just like, could we take all these amazing storytelling abilities of Evian and Fiji and Voss and just apply that to a water filter, basically.
Now we're going to go on for a little quiz.
Okay, cool.
So, which American billionaire owns the cable channel OWN?
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that. OWN. Are you American?
No.
Do British people know that? OWN, American billionaire. I don't know. I'm going to say Mark Cuban.
It's female. She's an American billionaire. She's female.
I don't know.
One of the few American... Well, actually, it's not a few American billionaires. OWN.
I don't know.
It's Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah Winfrey. I would have never said that in a million years.
Okay, fair enough. Name one of the founders of Y Combinator.
Paul Graham.
Yes. If you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you
Paul
launched
Graham.
too late. No,
It's Paul Graham.
it isn't.
Didn't we speak about this yesterday?
We did. So then I put it in, and I did a bit of digging.
That's so embarrassing.
Don't worry.
I know Paul Graham retweets that a lot.
He does.
So it's going to be someone from that California.
Maybe.
It's going to be someone from like 2008 that said it. Was it? It wasn't Zuck, was it? You get one more guess.
You can get 2.
All right, 2 more guesses. It's going to be. Can I have a clue?
He's where I first found out about you. I think that was a big enough clue. Yeah.
How do you? He's where you first found out about me. But this is gonna be someone famous, and I'm not friends with anyone famous. If your first product doesn't embarrass you,
You have launched too late. Which prominent entrepreneur said that?
I give up.
It is Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, okay, sure, that makes sense. Yeah. Well done. You called me out. Well done. Well done.
Which 2 brands does 25-year-old Grace Beverly own?
Tala and Shreddy.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And the final question, no, the final statement, be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. Which famous entrepreneur said this?
If you can give me a clue, I can try it.
Because I know how much you care about excellence.
Yeah, I don't know the quote though.
Can you give a guess? Which entrepreneur was like obsessed with excellence and quality? You can have 3 guesses.
Now you phrase it like that, Steve Jobs. Yeah.
It is.
You
Okay.
kind of gave it away.
Okay.
Are you sure about that Reid Hoffman one though?
Do you want me to double check? I'll double check and get back to you.
If you double check,
Yeah.
that'd be good.
Okay, cool. Now to the closing and final thoughts.
Sure.
What does the future look like for you, Charlie?
I don't know. But I'm gonna still be waking up, working on different things. I think Gelcard is gonna have a great few years, especially in the Middle East and Asia. I'm super excited for Water2. Where that goes and what velocity that goes at, is still undetermined at the moment, but everything's looking very positive. And as I said to you before we started filming, like, I don't take pride in being a serial entrepreneur. Like, I think, as I said, if we were all Zuckerberg and we had started Facebook at 19, we just wouldn't start other things. So I don't have any plans to sort of carry on making companies, even though I probably will. And yeah, just lots of hard work. I believe strongly that it takes about 10 years to do anything worthwhile.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of more now at age 22 where I'm kind of thinking I just want to build the right foundations, so when I'm 30 I'm just on a different planet rather than just going for sort of low-hanging fruit right now.
Brilliant. And what is your most enjoyable aspect of being an entrepreneur?
I like making money.
Nice. Good for you to admit that.
Yeah, but it's not the fact that I have the money, it's that was the goal of the game. And I totally believe that, because revenue doesn't lie, and if you're making revenue, you're solving a problem for someone.
True.
And kind of the skill of that game is if you can make profit from it. So making money, I love so much, not because I want to spend it, but because that's kind of validation that I'm doing a good job. So I love, even that's the most difficult part of the game as well. So when you do it, you take a lot of pride in it. And secondly, I do love the creative side of it. I'm almost like scared to admit it, but I really love the creative side of it. Like for Water2, like we just made this film, and I like directed and produced that. Even though I'm like a sort of a business guy, I love the creative part of it. Yeah.
Brilliant. And are there any last words you'd like to leave us with? Any words of advice maybe to future founders? Anything like that?
Yeah, two things. First of all, don't listen to what I'm saying. Like that's the main disclaimer. I'm going to look in the camera as well. That I refuse to fall into the trap of being a 22-year-old founder who's had the tiniest bit of success and then is going to start telling people what to do. So I'm just giving my insights on what's worked for me. If you want real advice, go and speak to someone who's at least 30. Second of all, there is a conflation between like business success and success. And whenever I go and speak at schools or wherever, and I went back to my old school, I made it very clear to them that like most of you aren't going to be business owners and entrepreneurs, and that's totally fine, and that should be the way. But that doesn't mean you're not successful, because I have brothers and sisters that aren't necessarily wealthy, but they're building their own amazing families, and like that to me is the definition of success. Yeah. And money, business isn't that. This is just one expression of it. So yeah, it's just to make that distinction.
Brilliant. Well, I've really enjoyed having you here. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity as well.
No worries. Thank you so much.